Welcome. I'm Chris McKean.
I'm Andy Kiner.
Here, we're all about cross-country racing, and usually it starts with 10 seconds.
But not in Iowa. In Iowa, it starts with hands-on helmets.
Welcome, everybody. As you can also see, we have our annoying resident that just likes to keep coming back, Paul Sirk.
Hi, guys.
I warned you this would happen, Chris.
Yep, you knew it. You left the door open.
You only invite him in the mornings where he can fix the breakfasts.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Good breakfast. You got to get there early.
Biscuits and gravy. I'm going to put that on my order. First race.
Yeah, Andy loves that.
No, we don't do biscuits and gravy.
Come on.
We don't even suggest to him. Yeah, on race days and race weekends, you don't suggest anything. You just let Paul run with it.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
That's the way to get the day started. So,
yep. Well, I guess I'm here again. I didn't plan on being this early, but we have another guest coming on here. And
well, before we do that, Paul, we already got some. Actually, we got quite a few viewers already. So just kind of remind everybody the gist of what we do. All throughout the show, we have live stream going, so you can make a comment, you can add a question. We'll kind of keep track of those throughout the podcast, and then towards the end of the podcast, we have actually we're going to talk about our Ober contingency, and then we'll get into our segment Ask Andy. So sorry not to interrupt you, Paul. You can go ahead now.
No, I'm going to leave the rest of the introduction for Andy here, but I'm just going to try to make some sounds. And that saying that's going around now, if you know, you know. So the sound is.
I knew it.
All right, Andy, if you know, you know, tell him.
It's not a turkey. I know that.
No, I'm trying.
But you know what that
isn't there.
You know what that reminds me?
What's it remind you of?
A period of like 2004. I had no idea what that sound was. And as we went on and I got to like, 2005 mid-season or whatever, you could identify one person.
Yes, you could.
By the way the brakes were grinding all the time.
Yes, you could.
Do you know who that one person is, Chris?
I do. It's our very first AA champion. We'll go ahead and bring him on. Michael Burrows.
There he is.
Michael, I don't know if you just heard that, but we were kind of making fun of all your brake noises we heard. How in the world did you must have went to a set of brake pads every race, didn't you?
Every single race.
I'll bet you have the quickest team of replacing brakes, don't you?
That's a lot of brakes over 26 years.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we could. Wow. The way Paul was making those sounds there, it took us probably 3 or 4 races, Paul, maybe. And it's
it probably took me longer because I was actually on the track and I'd only hear for a little bit when he flew by me. But yeah.
It just, some people have the sound, usually you can identify some of the machines like our AA guys when they're coming. I mean, you just know that sound when they're coming,
Mm-hmm.
And, but yours is a completely different sound, it was more in the braking. Do you ride the brakes? Is that kind of a thing of yours? Like, tell us about that. How's that work?
I use the brakes on like all the corners. I check up and I drag the fronts to help the bike maneuver around the corners. So I'm extremely hard on them.
That's we had what happened?
We're all still live.
Yeah, you were there.
We had a schooling with, I believe it was Walker Fowler, and then I think we did one with, who was the second one? Adam McGill. And it's funny you just said that because 2 of the things those 2 really, just drove into the kids hard was the cornering and using those front brakes. And it was amazing to me I'm not a racer by no means, but I never even put 2 and 2 together, how they're getting around that. And Adam, I think it was, even put a 5-gallon bucket, if I remember, out there and had everybody go around that 5-gallon bucket, as tight as they could by spinning the rear end around. But I always wondered back then, Michael, it's like, what is he doing? Are they locked up? Are they,
Yeah.
everybody's got their own thing. But man, I mean, it seemed like maybe 3 laps into a race. Yep, here he comes. You can hear it. So that's not the fastest guy. We're not used to hearing him from using the brakes, so it's kind of unique. But I'm kind of overriding this conversation. I don't mean to, but I want to speak up here really quick on this, because I think it was like 2 years ago. Believe it or not, I was actually in Vegas, and I think it was at a wrestling meet. Oh, by the way, good luck, Wartburg, today. So, but we're at a wrestling meet, and there was some I won't mention any names, had brought something up on the Facebook or something about, I had said that Matt Lindell was the fastest guy from Iowa. And they were arguing with me on this, and I had to break it down for him, like, a grade school, kid. And I'll still say that today. I still think that Matt Lindell is the fastest guy, just my opinion, the fastest guy from Iowa. But I didn't say the fastest guy in the Iowa series. I said, there's no doubt in my mind, and we've had some incredibly fast guys. Yourself, Dwayne Johnson, Goody, they're just list goes on and on back then. But Michael, I don't think anybody could ever argue with me that when they've asked me who the fastest guy in the Iowa series was, goes back to day one of our series. And you've kind of carried that torch. I know Dwayne was right there with you, but Dwayne just always seemed like he was like very consistent, very fast and very consistent. Now you, on the other hand, you were like rocket fast, but sometimes I wasn't sure if you were going to finish, just because you were so fast. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, I thought it was like you were just riding that edge of out of control. You know what I mean? You were right there at it, and God, it was a blast watching you guys race. But yeah, I just had to set the story straight there, because I got called out on saying Matt was the fastest guy, and I still say he's the fastest guy from Iowa for sure. But I think you definitely carry that torch, and I've never even questioned that. So I don't think Paul would.
Fast guy.
I never got to watch them that long. They were always, kind of buzzing right by. They didn't want to hold up and wait for me to catch up or anything like that. So, yeah. Tell us the beginning. You started the first of the series races.
Yeah, we was at the very first one at Indianola in 2004, and we pretty well just stuck it out, raced with you guys until I can't remember now. I think I had to take a break in 2009, maybe. I think I had to take a break for a little while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, before you start with us, what I really want to hear from you, Michael, is Chris and I was talking about this the other night. Who was Michael Burrows when you showed up that day? For us, it was a huge day for us. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing, and I forgot to bring in, I have that. I'm sorry, Chris, I forgot to bring it. I have one of those sheets. Remember the things we used to put on the helmets where you ride on it?
Yep.
And then at the end of the race, you couldn't read anything. And so I'll get back to that a little bit later to tell you how much of your first race I actually got to see. But we'll get back to that. But before that day, and we were introduced to Michael Burrows and the legacy that you would carry through our series, where did things start for the Burrows?
We were just a big group of kids around Gilman here that rode. I mean, we rode four-wheelers every single day. Always looking at dirt wheels and seeing GNCC, that made everybody want to go race,
Yeah.
Of course, we were 12, 13 years old. Trying to talk our parents into traveling that wasn't going to work.
So what was the first series that you actually started in?
Missouri had a hare scramble series. I think it was Missouri Hare Scramble Series Championship or something. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, we started. See, I was 13 years old. I think it was 98, maybe.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So 98, you started racing. In between 98, you're kind of doing your own thing until was your commitment to the Iowa Series in 2004. Was that kind of like your first jump into it for double A? Or were you already
we had been racing Missouri pretty well consistently since we started in 98. And I don't know, Missouri, it's so rocky and rough and just it beat things up. So when we see the opportunity to try something, right here close to us, and we went to Indianola, raced, didn't hardly put a scratch on the bike. We was all like, yeah. This is nice.
Oh.
We wasn't going home and putting 3 new tires on and a new skid plate.
I was just talking with the individual about tires the other day, and they were asking me about buying a new set of tires, for this year. And I said, hold your tires, that you run right now. And he goes, I got them at the beginning of last year. And I was like, wow. I said, yeah, if you want to, I think that they would like that, but I'll tell you, Michael, when Brady and Brock was racing on our 300, we raced the same set of tires for 6 years in Iowa. The same set of tires on our 450 for 5 years, the exact same set of tires.
Yeah.
And I never understood when I see all these guys at nationals, and they're getting new tires mounted on. I guess I want to say I'm spoiled because I've just always been in Iowa. That's basically where we raced. And when we started doing the AXCC, I think we went to Texas first. And I can't remember where the second one was, but holy crap, after like 2 races, I'm like, where'd our tires go? It's like, even on our utilities, it was amazing. Like you say, when you get in those rocky ones like Missouri and Oklahoma and Tech, it's crazy. So yeah, I feel very fortunate. That's one thing that some people might look at as maybe it's not quite as a challenge, but man, when you're able to race in like I call it the good old black dirt of Iowa, it's so, we get spoiled on the equipment, on how it maintains, I guess, but that's interesting. You point that out right away. So when you were in the Missouri series, what class did you race down there?
The very first race I went to, I think we ran C class maybe. And then I think within 2 years, I think we were racing A or pro. I can't remember now.
Gotcha. So you'd been racing like your pro, we call it double A, same thing, but you'd been racing that for a couple of years then before Indianola then.
Yeah.
Had you? Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Chris asked me this the other day, and I was like, boy, I never even thought about it. When I see a Burroughs, I think, oh, that's a pro. It's like, I don't know where he would have started. Did they have a Burroughs class down there, in Missouri or what? So that's interesting. So you started 2004 with us at our very first race. You won the very first race. Tell us something that sticks out. What do you remember about that very first race up here?
Really, I think that was probably the first time I ever got to race on a track that had a motocross track too. It was like half and half.
Yeah.
So that was really pretty cool for a change. Getting, our parents and everybody, the pit crew could actually watch some of the race, Yeah. Everybody enjoyed that. I don't know. It was just, you guys really, other than it being your first race and everybody kind of winging it, everything went pretty good as far as the racers could tell.
I'm glad it looked like that. We did a good job then of hiding everything. So
I do remember the paper on the helmet though and being like, oh my, what are we doing here?
Yeah. So when I was racing, believe it or not, before that, that's all we ever had.
Yeah.
That's all I'd ever done. I'd never seen any kind of, electronic or a better scoring. And do you know why that changed, Michael? I told you I'd mention this here a little bit earlier. So we have our first session, right? Well, all of our kids, there's like 20 at the most, that first race. So we go through there, we get done, and let me back up and start by my wife and I, Trace, we talked about like, okay, when we do this, how many do you think we're going to get? And I told her, I said, gosh, I hope we can get 50 racers. I hope we can get 50. We had like 150 that first race, and I was blown away. But I remember my mom and dad's camper, we had parked right up against the fence where they could watch the races, on the motocross there and stuff. And we got done, and I remember the scoring gals coming over and handing me this pile, and it was literally like that tall of all these papers. And I wish I had it here to show you. They're in the garage. I kept some. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, how can you make this out? What are we doing? So I went to my mom and dad's camper, and I was in my mom and dad's camper after we got you guys started and the first lap completed. I had to run in there and try doing the scoring to figure out everything. And I was in there for, I ain't joking, I'll bet you an hour and a half. So I hardly got to see your first race. I got out in time to see who was leading, and I heard a couple people telling me and stuff, but that was a mess. And after that day, I was like, I don't care what we do, but we've got to get stuff figured out because we can't keep doing this, You had to really look at it, okay, these guys did 4 laps, these guys did 3, now break it down and, and see how they did. But yeah, so I was glad to get rid of that right away. So, and that was all Chris's idea, actually, of using them.
Go with what you know, buddy.
Yeah, sure.
So we get it started. If I remember right, there was a little moisture that day. I don't think it was bad at all, though. I think it was
minimal.
Pretty minimal.
Perfect.
Yeah, it probably would have been perfect. Yeah.
So
by today's standards, for sure.
Right. Yep. So we had, like you mentioned, the motocross and stuff, and parents and everybody, going back to even that very first race. I remember, if there's one thing other than how fast Burroughs was, there wasn't a soul on that track. Every race I ever seen you guys on that wasn't envy of your pit crew.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, there'd be people I know is coming over and asking them to help. But mention some of the guys. I know your family was on there, but for likes of me, I can't think of his name. The guy that was always there for you.
I always had Brad Myers right there.
Brad, yep, that's who I was thinking of. Yep.
The Nate Pauley and his family, and Earl Johnson, Pat Johnson. Gosh, we always had a huge crew. Mom and dad.
Yep. That's where I met your mom for the first time, and I remember she always had the stopwatch, I think, if I remember right. And just, it's like, I remember that first race, though, and I think anybody there knew that Missouri had an upper hand on Iowa, because that was our first thing we've ever done. And watching you guys come up there is kind of like, us going riding around, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, what are these guys doing? They've got it figured out already, But I'll never forget coming up to you guys at the end of the race, and I wasn't even sure, who Michael Burroughs was. And I came walking over, and I'm sure it was your mom that I had asked, is a Michael Burroughs over here? Because you had won. And she goes, yeah, that's Michael over there. And I walked over and I called Dwayne Michael. And he's like, no, I'm Dwayne. And he goes, okay. That's the first time I ever met Dwayne, And then the same thing happened the very next race. And Dwayne won, and you got second. You guys flipped right there. So that was
you could usually throw a lasso over both of us, it seemed like.
Absolutely. Yep. But not between you guys, and there was fast guys back then, but you guys just had a way of, and it wasn't like 2 laps into it. You guys started with a pace that, I mean, nobody could match back then. I mean, they literally couldn't. And I mean, no disrespect when I talked to them, because even like Jerry Costello, I think he was third that first race, so don't get mad at me, Jerry, but and all them guys, but it just seemed like when Burroughs and Johnson was there, it's like, okay, I'm going for third, it's like, everybody was fighting to get third if you guys were there, you know, and you guys had such a pit crew that I don't even remember hardly you guys ever breaking down.
Not very often. They usually took pretty good care of us and everybody around us. We wasn't afraid to rob parts out of our trailer to help somebody else. I don't know. I guess that's part of it. We're there to help anybody.
Well, I think you guys definitely set the standard there, and not just the normal races, but obviously your background in the 12 hours and the 10-hour races and stuff, the Heartland and everything is, boy, when you guys set up camp there, it was serious. You guys had everything, including the pancakes right there in your spot, you know.
Actually, here is a photo from what is this, 2009 Heartland. So as you're talking about, I'll throw it up there. It looks like Burroughs, Dwayne, and I can't make out the middle guy here.
Kyle Martin.
Kyle Martin. Oh.
Where was Kyle from?
I think Winona, Missouri.
Okay. He didn't race with us too much, did he?
No, I mean, it's a long haul for them. I think it's like 6 or 7 hours for them to get up here.
Okay. Yep.
He was a really fast rider from down south.
Huh.
Yep.
So that's the 2009 you guys won.
Yep.
That's if he's half as fast as you said he was, you've got yourself and Dwayne. 2008, you say?
This is 2009.
Yeah.
When was Dwayne up there at the top of GNCC? He was number 2 for a while.
What was it? 2006, I think. He was number
6.
I think it was 6. He pulled in number 3 rank.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, he was.
Sounds right.
He was unstoppable pretty well that year.
And every time you went, it seemed like to GNCCs, and I remember watching you guys, but you would have zero, like problems here. And you go to a national, we all know that, you and Dwayne, like you said, you throw a blanket over you anytime, but it seemed like every time you went to nationals, it was just like you had the worst luck.
I think it was just too much pressure. I'd push the bike too hard, and I don't know. It just always breaking something there. Sometimes myself, I think I broke a thumb once, and I can't even remember.
Yeah.
It's too much pressure, I guess. I don't know. Overthinking.
Well, man, you look at that team, and we think of Heartland Challenges. I'll be honest, the first thing I think of is some of Walker Fowler's teams, that he's came in here with Kaiser and, and some of them guys. And boy, you look at that though, and you take a look at that picture, Kyle, I don't know enough about, but I trust you in what you're saying, how fast he was, but this has got to be one of the most overlooked teams when we look back in the history and see this team right here.
I would agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We were always right there every year. Just that year, everything finally clicked and held together.
Do you remember who it was that you guys beat that year?
I know it was a Team Yamaha, but I can't remember which ones.
Just curious.
Yeah.
There's some good runs, but so what do you enjoy more? Like a series 2-hour race, or do you like the endurance, like the team style?
I don't know that I could pick. I really like them both. I mean, we've raced the endurance so much that it's fun because you can just go as hard as your body can possibly go, and then get off and eat a Snickers and
yeah,
go in the camper.
Man. Yeah.
So that makes it pretty fun, really. But then you can go out there and it's a 2-hour race, and the only person you have to count on is yourself and your machine. So that's kind of fun too.
The reason I ask that is, Michael, is we've had a lot of people in the past ask us to put on more like Heartland style races, like 2 or 3 a year. We already know that we're not going to do that. that race takes as much as it seems like the whole year does, But having said that, though, I just wanted your opinion on this. To me, it seems like when you have a series to race, you race multiple series, places you can go and race and stuff. To me, it seems like if you have that one race, oops, we lose him.
We did.
Oh, there he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody tried calling.
I figured it was just Paul trying to reenact like when you came by and like, oh, there he is, gone.
There he is. There he goes. He's gone.
But no, what I was asking is like, it's to me, it seems like a good mix. Like you have something like your points that you can work for all year. It's almost like a break then when you have no pressure. You get to do it as a team. Guys, like on that picture we just showed that you and Dwayne race. I mean, as hard as you could race against each other, but then all of a sudden, you're allies on a team,
Mm-hmm.
But so tell us more about that very first race before we get to the second one. Was there anything else like at the end of that race? You mentioned like the terrain was different. You mentioned like having the motocross involved. Was there a point where you said enough's enough? Like give me that checkered, or Dwayne on you enough that, you know what I mean? You guys, even though you guys were like best friends, I think back then, at least it seemed like it, you guys are willing to throw it in the corners. That's something I always respected, is you guys could trust each other. Neither one of you, I don't think I ever heard one of you guys bumping the other, or maybe bump, but you know what I mean, as far as T-boning or something like that, or taking a nasty line. I mean, that was just something, and that's what I call a pro. That's what I think your AA and your pros should be about, is that you should be able to trust the person that you're racing against. And you guys were just like a symbol of that right there, But so was there a time on that race though that, like something where the question came up, or, like, did you question anything like, oh man, am I going to make it? Or, what was your thought, if you can remember back 20 years?
I don't remember what I'd done 10 minutes ago.
One thing he said he loved it.
One thing that I always remember is after the race, walking up there, and Jerry Costello, that was the first time I'd ever met Jerry. And I mean, great guy. But he's like, I won that race. And I was like, I'm sorry, you didn't win that race, Jerry. Yeah, I did. Nobody ever passed me. Like, no, Jerry. Just the look in his eyes, I almost felt bad even telling him afterwards.
Yeah.
But he did. He rode hard. I mean, everybody, we were all out to win it.
And it's funny you mentioned Jerry too, because with you guys being Missouri, kind of northern Missouri, but he's up right there, I think, right around the north side of St. Paul, is it?
Yeah.
Minneapolis? Yeah. So that was kind of, you mentioned the first time you ever met him, but we had so many people from Iowa, was anxious to get started. And you had probably 50%, if not more, of our riders in those early years were all from Missouri, especially northern Missouri and stuff. So we have, 3 states deep right there. And I know we had Illinois, we had Nebraska. I think we had 7 states at that first race. But that's kind of neat when you see that, I guess we had Missouri was 1, 2, and Minnesota was 3, so I don't even know if we had an Iowa guy. Bob Z, I think, might have been in there.
Yeah.
He was probably one of the very few Iowa guys actually in that top class starting out. But yeah. So what do you remember about that year? Is there anything that sticks out, or a race that sticks out to you that first year?
Not that I could think of. I mean, it was just a lot of real tight battles all year, it seemed like.
Yeah. Yep. And then, so how long before? So Bradley didn't race that first year, did he?
90s.
Was he in the 90s that first year?
I think he raced 90s the first year. I think it was the second year.
That's what I was thinking.
Was the second?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Chris didn't race. Your brother didn't race that first year either, did he?
No, I think he started racing the next year.
Gotcha. I was trying to think because you and I were talking the other night, and it seems to me like maybe it's just from the later years, but I just always remember Burroughs pulling in. I remember you used to have the Cub Cadet your mom and dad was always on. It just seemed like that I don't know how big your trailer was back then, but after you guys got all said and done, it's probably from people coming over and, kind of wanting to use this pit crew, I'm guessing. But it seemed like you just had so many machines over there. It was almost intimidating, watching guys come up and you could just see them looking over at your pits after they got to know you a couple times, it's like, oh boy, here they are, so. But yeah, it just seemed like you guys had such a following. You set the standard that very first one, and even as that first year went by, it just seemed like it kept growing and growing. And I remember, your pit crew and stuff. It seemed like you had the same ones every single time. It was just like you punching in to go to work, and they were too. It was like we're here, but it just seemed like such a loyal group that you could really count on.
They knew everyone had their own deal they did, and everybody knew how to do it. And it was like clockwork. We pull in, somebody had a water, somebody had goggles, somebody was checking tires, somebody was filling gas. I mean, just like that.
Yeah.
In and out. Like NASCAR, but with dirt.
Yep. And did you guys...
I remember those guys in Brooks, which was our second race.
Yeah.
And, pitting was never, and parking was never necessarily great in Brooks. And so they brought I think they had like a garden cart or something, if I remember right, wheeling it down to the pit area where I can't remember how we parked there exactly. Yeah. It had been a ways, and I'm like, wow, those guys are serious. And I don't know if you guys had a trailer at that time too. Were you like one of the first ones with a trailer, with an enclosed trailer?
Yep.
That was a whole nother deal too. I mean, obviously the series has changed and grown. Nobody shows up with anything under like 25 feet now, but just to haul their moped to watch even. But yeah, those guys, they were serious. I don't know if you remember some of the other places, Chris. I don't know if you can give him a hint on what some of that was.
Well, here's a photo that we found. There. This is an oldie. I don't think it was the Brooks race. I don't think this was 2004. I'm thinking this one was later.
They're too clean for Brooks.
Yeah, that's not Brooks.
This is Brooks. No, guaranteed.
Well, then it had to have been 4.
That was 04.
That was, yeah. Yeah.
This is an old Brooks. It's the Brooks is on the plaque. I can't tell because Brooks back in 2004 was May 15th and 16th. And this picture obviously is May 29th. So if we go back through all the data, I'm sure we can find truly what year it was. But it just, this was a very good picture. You got Dwayne, you got a lot of the old fast racers all on this picture. Look at that, giving a young Zach right there. So
I thought I had that picture right here.
Yeah,
I thought it said 04 on that picture.
Right. Were we at Brooks just twice?
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so that had been 4. Otherwise, these guys would be all muddy and their eyes would be watering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, they wouldn't even been up at the podium that second year.
Yeah.
Podium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we raced Brooks May 15th and 16th in 2004. June 12th and 13th, we were at Bluff Creek, or as other locals know around here, it's Bussy. July 17th and 18th, we were at Coyote Hill, walk on. August 28th, 29th, we were at Hog Holler in Osceola.
That's a misprint.
Okay.
Decatur City, I think, would be correct.
Oh.
Yeah, because that got
We got moved, didn't it? After the flyer was done.
Changed.
Yep.
September 18th, 19th, we were in Fort Dodge. And then October 9th and 10th, it looks like we went back to Walk On.
Yes.
Chris, you want to know something pretty interesting that a lot of people, I guarantee you, don't know this. I think Paul might.
Yep.
But that race that was supposed to have called Hog Holler,
Mm-hmm.
are you familiar where that was actually supposed to have been? If you go to Hog Haven, ironically, right when you turn off of 34 there to go to the Moore's place.
Yep.
That
you would
place
head
is
west. Yep.
Yeah, that's actually right on the right-hand side when you turn off there on that county line. That is right where it is. So that's like, what, 2 miles from Moore's, where that race is supposed to have been. From that very first year. When I went down to look at the Moore's that first time, I was like, man, I can't believe right there's where we're supposed to have raced, But it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so we raced a couple times at Walk On. Michael, do you remember Walk On at all?
Oh yeah.
What was one exciting thing about Walk On that you remember that first year?
Probably the coolest part I remember was waking up early that morning and you can't see anything. It was just fog.
Then the fog started lifting and you could see the colors all over the place. Yeah, that was gorgeous.
It's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a pretty great place as far as, from a racer standpoint. That was a good track. It was long. It had field sections. It was rougher than crap. And I mean, it was a pretty neat place.
Do you remember the rock garden up there?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember bouncing through it.
We got to go through the barn.
Yeah. You rode through the barn, zigzagged and over the panel. And
you remember that barn, Chris?
I do.
Yeah.
You had to duck.
Yeah, it's probably important.
Yeah.
It had a motocross section too.
Yep.
It did.
It did. Yep. Right as it came in.
Yep. That was a long drive for us though.
Oh boy.
I can imagine.
As far as you can go in Iowa.
Yeah.
There's no good place to get there.
No.
Did I send you a picture of that, Chris? Of the barn?
No.
Maybe I didn't. I thought I found a picture of it the other day.
I had some of those. I should have sent them.
Yeah. That was always a fun one for sure. But so I do remember we jumped past Brooks there. I remember, that would have been probably the morning session, maybe. No, I don't know. But do you guys remember anything interesting happening on the start at Brooks?
No, not the first year.
Not the first race.
Why, are you thinking of something like I am, Paul?
Well, probably the second year you're probably thinking about there. Yeah. Somebody didn't prune up that tree too well, left a little nub sticking out. I got the whole shot, but I wasn't on the quad.
I remember everybody going around that corner, that very first corner, or was it second? I can't remember, but between the trees.
Yeah.
One person that hit the tree was Paul. Probably the same one that was cleaning the tree out.
I went back. I'm telling you, it wasn't out 4 inches. That's all it took. That was back some of the Missouri guys. Roy Dale Hazard. I'd never seen a front bumper touch. His front bumper was almost touching the ground. I'm glad he had some front brakes. And I see it, and I just rolled off to the side and let everybody go by. I had that was a fun race because I didn't care, front end loosened up. I set it off to the side on the track and just kind of rode around. Yeah, it was a little more muddy that time too and stuff, but
yeah,
that was that was the second. The first year wasn't great either, but wasn't anything like that. I got nailed off the line, and It was a big C class back then, and there was 2 guys in the back row, and the guy lines up behind an old Warrior, mine. Like, why would you do that? And I even said something, this thing doesn't start very well. Do you want to switch spots? I'll go back there. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. And he drops the board. Bam! Right away. Just nailed me. What it did, it loosened up my pipe. And I ended up stopping because I lost my pipe. I gave him my scoring card. And it was a big, long, curled pipe. Heck, it was sitting on my axle. So, I didn't really lose it. It was riding around on the axle. But, yeah, and it cost me well, you didn't know I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't check all my bolts. I didn't nothing like that. I would have. The next race was Bussy, and at Bussy, my brake caliper fell off, and I know it was the same. What caused it? But,
you should pull
so
into the burrows.
Well, it was. We were kind of a long ways out there at that point. But, I figured it was probably a good time to stop. It was. That Bussy was that got interesting. Some of the Bussy stuff too. The morning session got a little lost at Bussy. I think they probably had it tuned in for you guys in the afternoon by then. But
what I remember about Bussy wasn't it like 109 degrees or something?
I think so.
It was
in the afternoon, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It was miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was and the DNR and the helmets and the yeah. That was
so Michael,
fun to race there, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So Michael, going back to that your first year with us, I know that the kids started looking up to you immediately. I remember my kid was like staring at you. I'll never forget this. I think it even might have been Brooks, just because he just was watching the whole time. He was only 4 years old at the time, and I just remember that the kids, and I think you were probably the first, and it's a good thing, but you were the first person everybody could look up to around here. You know what I mean? You kind of set the standards, obviously, and we had a lot of kids started after that first year. We grew from, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 to probably 30, 35, by the end of the year, and it was really cool because we've had a lot of people race with us. And I mean, no disrespect to anybody when I say this, but I'm not saying you didn't have fun at times, but you were always the person that somebody could talk to, you know what I mean? And we just seen it at registration saying hi to the kids and stuff. But how did that ever affect you at all, knowing that the kids you had to have known it, you know what I mean? When you're winning like that, you and Dwayne, and seeing those kids kind of circling the bikes around you, when you were coming up there, how did that make you feel?
It makes you feel good. I mean, nobody wants to be the bad guy. I mean, I guess I look at it as if I could help, one or two of these kids be a little faster or ride safer, I'm going to do it. I'll help all of them I can. So to me, to get to talk to them and try to, improve anything they can do, I'm all for it. That was always a fun part of every race, showing up and little kids, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? It was neat. And then you let me and Dwayne put on a class at Watson's too.
Yep. I remember that.
That was pretty neat.
Yeah. You had what I remember about that still too is they listened to you. And when you said something, and that's hard. I mean, you think about it. I could name a lot of times where the kids don't listen, but they're all so excited and racing. But when you were saying that, it's not like when you guys were talking, it wasn't like we had kids talking. You know what I mean? Yeah. They were focused in and like a sponge, just absorbing what you guys were saying. That was the first like kind of little schooling that we ever did. And that hit home with a lot of kids. I know you made a big impact on them. So
I'm glad.
And that one Decatur City had to be one of your favorite ones, wasn't it?
It was.
That's like in your backyard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nice.
Well, sometimes it was nice.
Yeah.
The first year was a little different.
Yeah.
So Michael, we kind of already like introduced your impact on the kids. We get a lot of questions and a lot of input when we were trying to like brainstorm and come up with ideas with this podcast. Guys that are new or even guys that have been around for a while always are looking for tips or tricks. What kind of advice do you have that you can pass along and we can share with everyone else?
Wait, I say have a fresh set of brakes every race is what he's going to say first.
That is a must. Really, the biggest thing I can ever preach to anybody is maintenance. If you can't finish races, you'll never win. I mean, that's the main thing. You have to finish every single race. And, you know, I done the same mistake too. I went out, you know, like Andy said, and it was either win it or break the machine, you know. Got a little older, realized, you know, I can steady things out, you know, push hard, ride a little safer, and, you know, you're actually faster. You don't think that when you're young and crazy.
Yeah. I heard I might have been Les Johnson. We all remember Les was a big part of the series and helped us forever, you know. I think it was Les. I first heard him say the terms that a race is not won in the garage, but it's definitely lost in the garage.
Right.
So that always kind of stuck with me that, yeah, you can't just wash it off and go to the next race and expect to have the same results, you know? So
you get away with it for one or two, but after that, things are going to fall apart.
Right. So
go
ahead.
No, go ahead, Andy. I'm just going to share a couple comments here. I don't want to take up all of Michael's time here. I totally agree with, I don't know if your brother's trying to suck up to you or not, or you paid him to say this. Yeah, I agree. You know, when we look at the series and all these years, you're up there on the legend level. I think of maybe a handful of guys. So Bradley is right for once. I don't know. I'll take my $20 too, Bradley. Couple other guys out here that I'm just seeing kind of comments. Scott Greif was talking about your family, all your guys' your family's willingness to help out anybody at the racetrack. We all have those stories. Mama B, I always gave her a hard time, asked her what she was doing. She always gave it right back to me. So yeah, cherish those moments. And you must have paid Gary, because Gary's another Missouri guy commenting here. You being the fastest dude. So
you've definitely earned the respect from all your peers out there for sure. So, and you know, I gotta say, we hear stuff that the racers don't, you know, because there's always somebody coming up and he cut the track, or, you know, or he hit me, or, you know, there's always something. And some of it I agree is, I'm not saying any of it's false, you know, but to me, it speaks volumes when I can honestly tell you, I had never heard your name ever brought up, ever. I can't remember if it once being brought up, other than I wish you would stay home, or, you know, or something like that, you know. But no, I mean, that's got to be cool, you know, that you hear the stories I'm talking about, you know. And
oh yeah,
it's when you go out there and your peers have nothing but good things to say, you know. And I'm talking, I know you haven't been with us the whole 20 years, but you were with us first 9 or 10 years, you know, right there. And I seriously cannot think of one thing I ever heard in a negative manner about Michael Burrows, you know. So that's pretty cool, I think.
Well, and we've seen him last year at the Heartland. So, you know, when we were kind of talking previously, I was trying to push Michael to commit to another Heartland, but we'll see, right?
Yeah, we'll see. You never know what will happen.
Well, you know, the cool thing about the Heartland last year was we really seen you guys. I think you'd done it one other time, if I remember right, but you guys were there as the whole family. Your team was, and now that's what I was going to ask you. I know your brother's off to the GNCC in Florida right now.
Yep.
It's kind of reverse to what I always thought. It surprised me, with him going and you not, but it's cool to see him have that just kind of revived interest, in it right now. But you got Michael, your brother Chris has been racing. I'm seeing on Facebook and stuff. You've got little ones now from the offspring of the Burrows, the second generation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, they are loving it. One of my boys, I got two now, but one of them is racing, and then Bradley's youngest is racing, and Christopher's daughter is racing too.
Wow.
So we got three of them out there right now.
You guys are gonna need a bigger trailer.
We went backwards, like everybody used to have big trailers. We're just hauling them in the pickups like a bunch of poor guys now.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing
it's
at
so
all.
much easier to travel.
So do you is it a whole nother level of excitement seeing your youth racing, your boys?
Yeah, it's really cool getting to watch all the kids do it. It's hectic because you got to hurry around and get them going, and then hurry around to get us on the machine. But it's a blast, and they are just loving it.
That's pretty cool.
One of the things I've got there's a couple things, but one of the things I think that Michael and I call them the Gilman gang still kind of, what you guys brought was the start of some things. You guys were the beginning, and we talk about, and I think on the back of this particular shirt, we talk about the race family. And you guys really started that in the Iowa series, and it grew. Everybody helping everybody. That was a big product of you guys and all your folks and people that helped you, that would help everybody else. And you guys should always be proud of that, no matter what the results are. That is a for sure a long lasting legacy that was started by you guys in the series, and it's a big part of what the series is about and why people keep coming back to it. I want to thank you guys for that.
No, we still, everywhere we go, everybody's family. I mean, we don't know a stranger. So, I mean, you guys were all part of it. That's how it all began. You guys were from the start.
So, Michael, tell us a couple of the we were talking the other day, so I'm going to put you on the spot here because we couldn't think of them the other day, all of them, but name some of the names that you can remember back then, whether it be on the track or in the pits, or, I remember Goody's antics, in the pits all the time, I never forget Goody running for, remember his posters he was hanging up for Iron Man. Yeah, vote for Goody.
Rider. Yeah, most popular rider. Yeah.
Yeah.
And am I wrong here? Don't I remember him riding one race with a broken leg?
Yes.
I think he put his leg up on the fender.
Yeah.
I think it was it Fort Dodge or Walk On?
Oh boy. Either one of those wouldn't have been pretty with the broken leg.
I think, oh boy, I can't tell you which one.
I can't remember.
In my head, it's one of the two. Like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I think he was one of the older, guys, one of the older racers in the pro class at that time. Coming out there competing with all these young kids, he was still always right there and giggling the whole time.
He was as ornery as any of the youth, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
We got some confirmation. Everybody thinks it is Fort Dodge.
Okay, that sounds right in my head too.
Huh. Yeah, I just remember I could not believe that he was racing with a broken leg, though.
Got to get your points.
Yeah.
Well, there's another funny story that was brought to my attention this week about a coin toss. So, do you want to elaborate on that one at all, Michael?
Yeah. Me and Dwayne, I think we was racing GNCC kind of right then too. So we was training stupid amounts. It seemed like. So our level was, we were probably at the fastest we'd ever been.
Yep.
It was Mount Pleasant.
Yes.
We decided we was going to let the whole entire class take off, and we flipped. I can't remember for sure. I think we flipped a coin. It was either that or rock, paper, scissors to see who was going to let the other one take off first. And I'm pretty sure Dwayne won. But we let the class take off, and just to see how quick it would take us to catch up. It was pretty fun.
So,
and that's one of the longer courses.
Yeah.
2 water crossings.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that could go wrong there. That was pretty crazy to be able to do that at that facility.
Yeah, it was, and it was pretty dusty too. All them field sections. It was kind of risky, but it was fun.
paid off in the end, right?
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of risky. The guy that flies through trees as fast as he can.
You know,
Gosh.
I remember when you just said that, Paul, that was one of my first thoughts when I seen you guys, because I've been around racing, but honestly, the people that I've been around, you know, when I used to race, it was a dirt bike, and then there were some 4-wheelers that were allowed to race. You know, I mean, there just wasn't much for 4-wheelers, you know. But so that was my first really, outside of GNCC, we went there that first time. No, that was after the season started, hadn't it? Yeah, we went after the first year. So, but you guys were the first ones that I can honestly tell you really scared me when you guys came through out there in the timber, and you're like, wow, like them boys are hauling, you know. So that was pretty cool, man. A lot of good memories back there for sure. So who was some of the people that I know when I hear Michael Burrows, or when people talk Michael Burrows or the Burrows family, it's always the Burrows family and then the Burrows bars. The Burrows bars are, I think, are as famous as the Michael Burrows. Tell us how that got started.
The Burrows bars?
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, it was Mike Mack and Johnny Maples. They were a couple local racers that raced. They raced Blackwaters and Missouri Series, and they brought some over, and I was like a 10-year-old kid over here working in the machine shop, and they wanted me to make some of these Nerf bars, and they're like, "You can copy them though, and start selling them or using them," and you know, I just kept making them and kept changing stuff and making them better and better, and then everybody wanted them. It seemed like,
Yeah,
just kind of grew.
They became pretty darn popular.
There's still some in the series.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They're around.
Well,
I think I've
important
seen
when you don't have reverse.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That was the big kicker, is we didn't like having nets in them because, you know, you get up against something, you could just put your feet down and push yourself backwards. You know, safety wise, you know, people look at it as like, you're crazy. Your feet fall down, you're a goner. But yeah, I guess that's the risk you take.
So who was some of the people that really helped you out back in the day? Still maybe today, but why was Michael Burrows and you guys so fast? I mean, other than your skill level, what was some of the stuff, whether it be the people in your pits? I know you already mentioned some of them. Was there sponsors or somebody that really stepped up and made a big difference for you guys?
I mean, honestly, Dwayne and his family probably helped me out the most there towards the first, you know, once we got to traveling and racing, and, you know, us pushing each other. That's probably what made us the fastest that I know of. But yeah, my family really helped me out most of the, you know, keeping things together and getting me places, you know. And Bart Thomas, he stepped in there a couple of years, and his program was amazing. I mean, it was just easy for me. I didn't have to work on the bike for once. He took care of everything. I mean, that really made my life easy there. at a time that I needed it to be. So he really stepped in. Josh and Randy at Dirtworks Motorsports, those guys, they gave me a really good step into racing, with pretty well making any kind of part that could be made, and those guys knew what they were doing. And shocks at that time, we didn't have Bart helping do shocks at then, and those guys took care of us on all levels on that. And it was just nice. I don't know, I've had so many people help over the years that honestly, I can't keep track really. And I feel bad. I know I should be mentioning them, but that's a lot of years of racing.
So I got just a couple quick questions, and I'll let these guys ask you. First one is, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Not Dwayne, because I know you and Dwayne were as tight as they came, I think, behind the scenes and on the track. If you had to pick one other person that you said that I just absolutely enjoyed, racing with them, being around them at the track, something like that, another competitor, who would that be?
Oh, man. Well, I don't know.
I'll let you think about that one.
I'd probably have to put it between Paul, definitely Paul.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I don't know. I'd probably have to put it between my brother Chris and Tucker White.
Yeah.
A couple guys I had fun with. I don't know. Zach Johnson. I don't know. There were just so many people. I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. How about this? If you could have one race you could have a redo on,
oh my,
no matter where it would be, that's something that still chaps you today that you did not get that one, what would it be?
No. I would say Showtime GNCC.
How'd that end for you? What happened there?
Threw the chain off, bounded up.
You were running about third place, if I remember right, or something, maybe
Second
even
or third
better.
overall. Right in. I don't think we was halfway through the last lap. Yeah, it would have been a good day, and that was really probably one of the best rides I'd had.
Huh.
I remember the announcers. I raced the morning there, and they were kind of all in awe and wondering who you were, and we knew it. But do you remember? Was it cold sitting out there with that chain off? Did you get cold getting waited to be towed in and stuff?
I actually no, I didn't get a chance to even get cold because I scrambled off that bike and was beating on it with a rock, and I got it beat out of there, and I made it back in, but I was out of the top 10, I believe, at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even get a chance. I was scrambling for everything it was worth.
And back then with that race, I mean, you had yourself, you had Dwayne, Brian Baker was racing back then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, Missouri had a very, very strong presence there, didn't they?
Yeah, there was tons of riders, Yeah, there was some national, Brian Baker was riding GNCC then, and I can even remember Chris Higgins. I was pretty young then, but he was a national rider, and Brian Holsey.
Oh, yeah, Brian.
He was national rider too. They were all coming to the local series then. And me being a kid looking up to them, I mean, they were, I was that little kid looking up at them and all then.
Well, I'd say they did pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember what Scott's saying. I was thinking about what Paul was talking about.
That was cold.
Yeah. Didn't he almost get hypothermia or something at that race?
We were kind of worried about Scott that day. Yeah. He was no, he didn't show up, and it was he, like he said, he was like the last guy towed off that track that day. I remember the waterfall on that thing.
Yeah.
and I drowned it. My machine didn't like water, and I was sitting in a puddle. I was trying to get through a puddle quick because 4x4s were coming, and I didn't want them to splash me. Well, I splashed myself, and I sat there. And then they double hooked us to tow us back, and Prindle was hooked up behind me, like he was hooked to my rear bumper. And then they go taking us up these rocks and stuff, and I couldn't see a thing. My goggles were covered and sprayed by the stuff, but we made it up there, and that was pretty neat to have that. I wish they'd bring them back to the west side a little bit more on the GNCCs. I don't know really what happened there or not, but that was pretty neat to be hearing your name when over the announcements there in the afternoon. Though that was pretty neat stuff.
So I'm gonna pick your brain one more time, Michael. My last question for you,
Okay.
because I get this question all the time, and I say all the time. I'll mention the last week I've had 5 to 10 people ask me this question or lead into this question where I feel like I need to say something to them.
Oh.
And I want to see if it's going to be the same what you would say. So you have a new rider come out, okay? He's going to race first year, C class or whatever. He's never raced before, but he's got himself a machine. Let's just say it's a 450, okay, for example. And he has a billfold on his back pocket that has money in it that he's burning to buy stuff for his four-wheeler, okay? Cross-country racing, what's the number one thing you would tell him to focus on first with all of your history?
Suspension.
I always tell everybody we've never given out an award for the most wheel spin, you know? So why do you say suspension?
Because, I mean, that's where your speed is. I mean, your shocks are going to soak stuff up. You can only go so fast with a stock level suspension.
Gotcha. Yep. I think that's what almost every experienced rider says, but that's really, and I get it. I completely get it why it's hard for a new guy coming in, you know? So I'm asking your top 3 then. So you got your suspension, whether you bought in revalves or you've went and bought custom axes, you know, or whatever it might be. You've got that put on. Now, what do I go to next? I still got money in my billfold.
Tires.
Yeah. What do you look for in a tire?
I don't. GBC.
Well, I mean, do you customize yours? Do you know, put grooves in them? Do you know?
No, I don't. I put the XC Masters on the front and the GB3s on the rear, and I run them. It depends on the terrain. I'll run them one race one direction and flip them around and run them one race the other direction. Keep a sharp edge.
Okay, interesting. And does a contingency, do you look at a contingency and let that play a factor in which tire you're going to use, or you already know what tire you're going to go to?
A couple of years ago when I jumped back in and didn't have any sponsors at all, yeah, I paid attention to the contingency because, you know, that got me tires for a year, you know.
Yeah.
And that plays a big factor to a lot of these guys that, you know, I know they don't get support. I mean, if I was in their shoes, I would run what the contingency run.
Gotcha. Okay, so I've about spent all my money, but I do have some left. What's the last thing that that you would guide me to? Number 3 on the Burroughs list.
Well, at that point, you're getting fast enough. You should probably make sure you got a good helmet, chest protector, and boots.
And when you say that, I like what you just said, because you know that they have to have that going out. But when you start getting that speed, you're saying that you need to take a look at it and make sure that I've got the top quality type stuff.
Yes, I would. I haven't officially made a post yet, but I told my wife, because I don't do a lot of Facebook, but I had my wife take care of it for me. But I had a close call at this last race last weekend. I had Lapper getting ready to pass a Lapper, and he kicked up a tree right in front of me, laying lengthways with the track. and it literally was headed right for my chest like a spear. And just from luck, it went right underneath my plastic. And I kid you not, it was, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inch tree sharpened to a point at the end. I mean, it just takes one
Wow.
time to have a really bad day. So if
We
it had
were
been 2 inches higher, you know, the chest protector hopefully would have saved my life. But, you know, people need to think about that stuff. That's the second time in 26 years of racing I've had that happen.
Wow.
The first time took me completely off the quad. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
So that's very interesting. I'm glad you said that, because that's a safety thing that a lot of the people don't look at. You know, kids outgrow their helmets so fast, they keep getting new ones. And sometimes, you know, I've heard people when I was working at a store, you know, what's your cheapest one, you know, and it's just different when you're riding your electric one out in the yard compared to going down through the timber. So I'm really glad you pinpointed that out. But the one thing that I noticed that you know as well as I do, the number one thing that most people want to spend their money on is what?
stickers.
Yeah.
They go
Actually,
fast.
I do have another question on that for you, but everybody I see wants to build motors.
Yeah.
Wants
Make it
to
go
put,
fast.
yeah,
Fast.
make it go fast, but that doesn't translate when you get into the timber, does it?
Nope.
Now,
Knock
if I
on
remember,
wood. I mean, I've ran a stock motor in this Yamaha for what, 2 years now, and I don't know, seems to be working fine.
so one thing is either you or Dwayne, I'd ask one of the very first years, because I was amazed how fast you guys were, and this always stuck with me. One of you guys told me I run a bone stock motor, except I think it was a hot cam in there.
Yeah.
That was the only thing you guys had done.
Yep.
And that's always stuck with me, that you guys had said that, you know, just so many people think to go fast, I got to have more CCs, or I got to put a bigger kit. But with the cross country, it's all about reliability.
Reliability, and, you know, if I can hit that ditch, you know, and shave 2 or 3 seconds every lap over the guy behind me, you know, I'm going to gain all my time right there. Motor's not going to help me, you know.
Yeah. So last question I had for you, since you brought that sticker thing up, is I always gave my kids crap growing up, and they always want to look like the Michael Burrows or the Dwayne Johnson, the fast guys there. But I always had a thing, and you correct me or you tell me what you think of this, but what stickers do you typically put on your machine?
What do you mean? Like
the race stickers and stuff?
I mean, whoever's helping me. I mean, you know, whether it's family, I mean, or sponsors, they're all on there.
So you just answered exactly what I was hoping you were, because what I see in my boys, and I know you see it as well, you go out there on the line and you see all these, they got 30 stickers on there, but not one of them are sponsoring them.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't that in a way, and I know it's hard to tell people this, doesn't that hurt the sponsors when people are actually out there putting that stuff on? But if I go buy a cam, for example, for $400 and I put that sticker on my machine, it's hurting the guy that's truly helping you, you know what I mean, to be out there doing what you need. That's the way I've always felt. And I've had people ask me about that. And I know kids, they want to do it, but my boys, I was always like, no, not unless, especially if you don't even know a name. If you can't tell them a name in that company, don't put it on there, you know. But sponsors are a big deal, you know, especially someone moving up, you know, and you can gain so many relationships, you know, by doing it right, in my mind, than you can by just putting every Tom, Dick, and Harry on there, you know. So
that's right.
But so we have some guys. Help me here, Chris. You guys all know we got the Burrows headed to Florida. We got Tucker Wyatt headed to Florida. I was just talking with Toby Vanderpool. They're headed to Florida. Alec is actually racing this time. So Alec and Kate are headed down there. We know the Brants are headed down there. We know Bergs are all down there. I believe both the girls are racing this time, and Shorty. You've raced in Florida before, correct?
Yep.
So that's a whole different terrain. So what would you recommend to all of our Iowa associated people that are headed down there? What would Michael Burrows tell you on the line to do during this race?
You better toughen up.
Oh.
Them palmetto roots, they just come out of everywhere. They're out to get you.
Is that a mental thing as well as physical?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is because you feel like you can just put your head down and charge, but you got to pay attention down there. I mean, I don't know how it is this year because I haven't even checked weather or nothing. But there was years that we ran down there where it was dusty and just sand whoops, and then there was years we ran down there where it was swamp and you didn't see half the track because some of it was underwater. So you really never know what you're going to tackle there. But I know one key factor we always played was sand whoops. You always needed to speed your suspension up to keep up with the whoops because they just pack up and then it'd kick your butt.
Huh. Interesting.
Well,
I wish everybody. What's that?
Drink lots of water.
Drink lots of water. Yeah. And that's a big deal, isn't it? When you go from here down to there, it's a whole different climate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, we are quite over our time. Andy likes to talk.
He does.
When you got this guy on here, I want to hear what he's got to say. This is
very good conversation.
2 or 3 hours on this.
Very good conversation. He shared some good tips and tricks to help those newer riders out there. Maintenance was a good ride, but
did you have any questions come in that would apply to Michael that he could answer?
I have not. I've been monitoring out here. Here's one that just.
How many championships do you have in our AA? Do you know, Michael?
Funny, that's the question that came in.
I know.
I think I had 4 in Iowa.
Huh. Between you and Dwayne, you probably had 8.
Yeah, I think he won 4 also.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any other ones, Chris?
Nope. Everybody's just kind of making comments out here. Here's a question here, Michael. Kind of share how you train, like practice riding, hours spent, terrain, frequency.
Well, used to we would practice behind our dad's house. There's a loop back there, probably 3 miles, maybe. It's not big, but it is brutally rough. It was like the rock garden at Walk On, but the whole 3 miles of it was like that. So,
wow.
I mean, I don't know. We'd just go out there and run as hard as we could for 4 or 5 laps, and then take a breather. And anymore, I don't get to train at all. Nothing. I work constantly, so you work hard, and that's your training now.
Gotcha.
I know you're trying to tempt him to come to the Heartland, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Would this be the time that maybe we reveal what's new for the Heartland this year?
Yeah, let's go ahead and reveal that piece of it. And then, I want to talk about Old Board Contingency that we have that was released recently, kind of touch on that with everybody. And then I don't see too many questions. Nobody really wants to ask you anything. So
I'm bored.
I think they're just absorbing what you've been saying. So
I'm an open book. They can always.
Yeah, I wasn't making that comment towards Michael. I was making that comment towards you, Andy. There's no questions for the Ask Andy segment so far. So
nice. So Michael, we've been working with AMA about the Heartland, And it's the first time anybody's known about it except for Chris and my wife right now. Even Paul did not know this.
Nope.
But we've been working with AMA on team races. It's the only team race in the country that's AMA sanctioned. All the way back to 2008, we actually got with them and kind of wrote the rule book for team racing for AMA. And it's kind of cool that we could have that footprint, on the very first one being AMA and stuff. And ever since then, we went through a couple of different people out there at AMA and help. And we've been working with them for like the last year and a half on this. And happy to say that this year will be the first time in the history of the sport for an ATV team race. It's going to be an elevated event, they call it, a regional championship, I guess you call it. It'll be the very first one for team race. So you will actually, every single class for ATVs, youth and adults, will get recognized this year with an AMA #1 plate for team racing. So I was pretty happy with that and pretty excited about it.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if I sign up for the Ironman class and I win,
No, Chris.
And if I win, I get what?
No, Chris.
Chris, I believe you get a #1 AMA plate.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, so that's cool. So I was really pushing for this last year. I remember Brent, that does a lot of Benj Gertis, that does a lot of work, for the series and stuff, and end up winning the Ironman last year. I so hoped I could have it there, for then. It just didn't pan out for last year. So this year, like you just mentioned, the Ironman this year will be the very first ever in the history of the sport to be recognized by AMA at the #1 plate for that. Every team member, so if the three boroughs is race again and wins it, we will have some there to get your picture taken with, but they will all be, I'm sure you're familiar with how AMA's done it in the past, Michael, but that will all be customized with your name and everything, and that'll be mailed right to you from AMA. So, but you'll get pictures taken that night with some duplicate type plates to be recognized with them. So they're going to be doing some articles in their magazines that you get through AMA and stuff about the Heartland, and making a recognized race now with the #1 plate. So pretty excited. Yeah. So maybe you'll have to get the youth ones up there this year too, and see how many number. That's the one thing you don't have from a Heartland yet. You know that, right? I think any team race you've ever been in, you've never ever earned a #1 plate. So this is your shot right now, man. Don't let it slip through your hands. So, yeah, but we want to thank AMA on that. AMA has been a big part of our series now for 20 years, and for them to be able to do that, I think it speaks volumes of like guys like yourself, Michael, that's been there and kind of set the standards, and they understand that it's something that they want to recognize now. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool of them.
Yeah.
So can we get your confirmation that you're going to put a team together?
I'll see.
He's looking into it.
Oh, and if you need a fourth, I might be available that day.
All right. We might be able to do it then.
Paul is not available because he actually works at the Heartland.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that wasn't a slam on you, Chris. I'm sorry.
I was thinking that, but
yeah,
it sounded like it, but
yeah.
Well, Michael, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I know we've taken a lot longer than you expected, but just so much we didn't even start to touch, what you could inform us on or help us with and stuff. So we're going to reserve the right to use you as a lifeline down the road sometime, I'm sure. So
just holler.
All right, man. We sure appreciate it.
Good talking with you. You take care.
You too.
Thanks, Michael.
See you guys.
See ya.
All right. I got to go too. Or you guys have a good evening.
You do the same. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, for coming on again. If you're not doing anything next week, the invitation's always open for you.
We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll see ya.
All right.
We got a really cool one coming up next week too. I know we're not announcing who that is quite yet, I don't think, but
I'm ready to announce that.
Oh.
Look, but let's get through this other stuff real quick here. So you want to go ahead and talk about the contingency, and I'll bring up my screen to share.
Yeah, we've been seeing Ober tires a lot more lately, and Ober was nice enough to get with us about doing a contingency for the series. And I was pretty impressed. They really put together a cool package here. The biggest thing is, in other contingencies that we have, you fill out the contingency form at the track and make sure, and you definitely want to get on. Chris has it up here now to show that, but you want to get right on their website. You can do it the day of the race, but you just got to remember, you've got to take pictures of the bike. You've got to get some stickers involved there. I believe you need to have a hat for the podium. So you definitely want to get on there, check it out. It's really nice. They're actually cash payouts. You realize that, Chris?
Cash payouts. Look at these. Look at this cash. I mean, well, just quickly go through here, but a double A rider, that's $200 extra in your pocket. We've heard some conversations about the utility or the UTV classes this week. Look at the utility classes, $250 for the open first place winner.
Yeah, there's some talk about upping the payouts and stuff. Kind of question that. So you're right. You can pick what third place is still $100, I think.
Yep. And we do see that it does say A class UTV and B class UTV. We will get those are our current classes. So
yeah. Yep.
Lots of money to be given out just for our series.
Yep. Very impressed with that. So
kind of the caveat as with our GBC contingency is there has to be 5 racers that start that class to qualify for the cash.
Yep. And that makes perfect sense to me. You want guys out there racing competition, you don't want them trying to run away from competition. They want to prove that their tires are the best against the competition. So having 5 guys, I think is a smart way to go about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So just the contingency form, it is quite lengthy. So on like GBC form, you have to bring the form up to one of the officials. We have to make sure it's filled out, and we do our signature and sign that form. With this contingency, it's all online, so there you don't have to bring anything. You don't have to fill out anything. It's all up to the individual rider to fill out. Just quickly going over the questionnaire or what information needs to be filled out. Some legal verbiage, and then it's asking for the files to be uploaded. All they're asking is for 4 things. They're looking for the hat. They're looking to make sure that it is, in our case, a Iowa Series race. They're looking to make sure that you have pictures with the actual tires on your machine, and then also stickers, graphics on the machine as well.
And I do know, Chris, that we were talking with them. They're going to send me out some hats and some stickers.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have some of that stuff, but I would always say don't rely on anybody else to have that for you. We're hoping we do have some, but if you need something like that, definitely reach out to them, so that you can make sure that you're covered there.
Yeah. So that was
another thing about this is kind of interesting too, is, we actually put it in the rules. We're trying to do a lot more promotion with, the guys finishing and everything. So we've got that in the rules about making sure you go directly to the awards right afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of what they're looking for too. They want to see you on the podium. They want to see your machine up there, so that's real important. So we're hoping, I think last year we really did a great job. I want to give a hand to the girls and the track crew and stuff about being able to handle stuff so we can get those awards handed out just as quick as possible, so we're not having to wait. Obviously that's hard when you're still doing you got sweeper out there, but Chris has done a really good job there at scoring, getting us the ones that we know are done, the classes and stuff, so we can get moving forward with those and get people going. In the past, we've had to wait, for a while till we got everything shut down, and Chris has found a way to, speed that up for us, and we sure appreciate that. But this is, again, Ober's looking for the same thing. They want you on the podium. So
that's some good breaking news this week.
Yeah.
So do we want to announce? I don't really see any questions popping up, just a lot of comments, which we won't have questions every time. Here's Tyler's wanting a 90 team race before the Heartland, side by side.
Yeah, the only issue we have there, quite frankly, is time. Is just being able to, get that. Even our ambulance crew that does a great job, with AMA. That's one thing I really respect, is they make sure we have an ambulance there. Boy, they're pretty much committed for almost 2 days, being there late and stuff. It's just a time factor being able to add anything in there. It was actually hard for them to actually be there in time for the kids race, their 2-hour race, when we split the 50s up. So that's the biggest time. It just comes down to a time frame for that.
Yeah, a lot of fun packed into a day and a half.
Oh boy, a lot of racing in a short amount of time.
I don't really see any other questions, because we are quite long. So thank you guys that are still hanging out with us. You want to go ahead and announce who we have lined up for next week? Maybe they can generate some questions for the person.
Yeah, and that's actually, before we even announce that, I would like to throw this out there that we've seen a lot of good ideas from people, about podcasts and interests and stuff. And that's something not just during the show here, but, don't be afraid if you've got an idea for a podcast or a person you'd like to hear from, to bring that up. That's kind of like finding new tracks, Chris. We find the best ones from the actual writers themselves, so. But yeah, don't be afraid to bring stuff up, ideas. I know one popped up here a while back about the worst mud race in the history of the series. That's something that I definitely like to cover. It's hear everybody's answers. I think we know the top 3, but you never know, so. But yeah, I'm real excited about next week. It might even take 2 weeks worth, by the time we get it. But yeah, we're excited. There's been a lot of talk about the 4x4 and the utility class, in the last couple of weeks, with some changes that's been going on. And so we're coming back to some of the original, 4x4s, and just talk about the history of them. And we got a special guest coming on next week. Who is that again? Kevin Weedy?
Kevin Weedy. 323.
Yeah. A lot of people that may not know Kevin that's racing now, there's nobody in the history of the 20 years that has as many championships as he does.
And wait, there's more. He's coming back.
He is coming back.
He is we've got the official paperwork. He's coming back to race again in the open utility class.
Yep. And, we just made some new classes for the 4x4s, and, something I always respect about, Kevin and some of them guys from back in the day. I know we've got some pictures to share, for next week, but man, them guys, they just want to race the best, and even if they're not sure if they can win, I think they actually, there's a thing I've always seen in wrestling, and I refer to them guys as trying to find their equal. They won't run from competition. They want to race the best. And if I get beat, I get beat, but at least I tried it, and Kevin's, obviously you can't stop the father of time, he's taking some time off and stuff. And for Kevin to come back on and commit to the year and just say, hey, I want to race the best. Boy, he got my mad respect. That's for sure.
Yep. So we'll have podcasts. We'll go live again next Thursday, 7 p.m. If you have questions, throw a comment in this podcast, or we can throw a comment out there when we begin the podcast next week.
Well, that sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Until next time, enjoy.